Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 15 Laws of Growth information session. My name is Dennis Ritchie, and I'm one of the directors of Awaken to Life, and I'm also a certified coach, speaker, and trainer with the John Maxwell team. Now, before we get started, I want to encourage all of you watching this live, or some will watch on the replay, to grab a pen and some paper and prepare to take notes on what we cover today. I promise that the next hour will add tremendous value to you. I believe you'll leave this session with a pretty good grasp of what it takes to grow into your full potential, to become the person God dreamed and designed you to be. So let's get started. Now, I believe you're here for one important reason. You want tomorrow to be better than today. You want you to be better tomorrow and today. So if I'm right in my belief, I'd just like to hear from you all by typing a yes or a thumbs up in the chat right now. Just let me know how you feel about that coming into this session. Really would encourage you to just fill up the chat with your thoughts about what I just said. You're here because you want tomorrow to be better than today. Okay? So I'm gonna move on and first congratulate you because you've chosen to invest in this hour of learning about the 15 laws of growth. So because you've done that, you've already done what most people never do, and that's take a positive step forward to become better. So I have another question for you. Are you hungry? Now, we're having this session at lunchtime, so you may be hungry in your belly, but are you hungry for your life to really be better? Are you hungry to step outside the familiar, no matter how comfortable or even however unsatisfying or frustrating life is right now? Are you hungry? Are you hungry for something better? Are you hungry for your life to be better? Now, in 1902, a very wise man named James Allen wrote a book, and the title of the book is As a Man Thinketh. Now, he didn't come up with that on his own. That came straight out of the Bible, book of Proverbs, chapter 23, which says, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. And he makes a statement in that book that I think sums up the human condition very powerfully, and it's this. People are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. Now that's a strong word, bound. But think about it. If you say that you want to be better, but you're not willing to do what it takes to become better, then, as you know, the Lord himself might say, your will be done. You will remain bound in your present. And know this, change is inevitable, but improvement, growth, it's a choice. And this is our mission and our passion here at Awaken to Life, to lead you side by side to grow, to become the fullness of the person God created you to be. So just a quick word about Awaken to Life. We are a wholeness academy, and we offer 3 ways to lead you on your journey to becoming a whole person and to live the life that you're made to live. We call our approach the circle of wholeness, and what we do is we help you receive healing, reclaim health, and cultivate growth. And cultivating growth is the purpose of today's session. So let's get back to the topic at hand. We want to be better tomorrow than we are today. Now, the only guarantee that tomorrow will be better, as John Maxwell says here, is if you're growing today. If you're taking steps to improve and to be a better you. Now, this does not happen automatically. But here's what does happen, whether we realize it or not. You may have heard of a psychologist named Abraham Maslow. He came up with the famous hierarchy of needs pyramid. But here's how he puts it. We either step forward into growth or we step backward into safety. Now, isn't that a word that's tossed about a lot these days? Be safe, be safe. Let's do everything we can to stay safe. There's a thing out there that might kill us. Well, again, change is inevitable. Growth is a choice. We either step forward into growth or we step backward into safety. And it's more not a step, but kind of a slide or an unaware retrenchment into safety. You know, the reality is we either stretch ourselves out of our comfort zone to grow, or we settle for the status quo, the familiar, the comfortable. That's what we mostly perceive as safety. I like the way things are. It may not be the best, but I'm comfortable here. Remember what Proverbs 23:7 says. As a person thinks in their heart, so they are. If you think you can't grow, you won't. If you believe deep in your heart that you can't do the work to grow, you won't. Or if you just don't want to, you won't. But this is exactly why John Maxwell wrote the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, to show the way how to experience a better tomorrow. So the purpose of today is to give you an overview of what these laws of growth are. Now, in my own journey of studying and applying and living these laws out, which is straight up a lifelong pursuit. If you're serious about it, this is a never-ending journey. But here's what I've learned. There are 15 of these laws, and for me at least, they kind of cluster into three groups. And the first of those are laws that govern preparation, what it takes to be ready to grow. Then the second group of laws are what I would call process, the key steps that you take and the key choices and actions you take to be better tomorrow than today, every day. And then the third group of these laws are what I would say the laws that govern the results. This is where you examine how you're doing and are you getting to where you want to be. Now, as important and as valuable as these laws are, and John himself would tell you that everything he learned about growth and about leadership began in the scriptures and was perfected through his own journey. There's still one other law that really does govern all of these laws. So I ask you, anybody have an idea of what that law might be? Let's fill up the chat. Let's fill up the chat. If you think you know what that one law that governs all laws of growth is, go ahead and put it in the chat. If you don't know, just type in no. Just kind of let me know where you guys stand on this. And while those come in, I'm seeing lots of good comments about absolutely I want to improve myself on a daily basis. I choose to improve and grow. That's awesome. It's time to grow. All things alive must grow. Good stuff. The power of your yes. That's a great one. All right. So thanks for staying engaged, and this is really just kind of an immediate lesson for right now is stay engaged, because this law is going to show you how important that is. So here's the one law that governs all, and you've probably heard this, but it really is the truth. The law of sowing and reaping. Okay, now sowing and reaping has its roots in agriculture. But our Lord and Savior and teacher, Jesus, used agricultural metaphors in almost everything he taught, because that was the world in which he came. But the law of sowing and reaping is pretty simple. You sow sparingly, you reap sparingly. You sow generously, you reap generously. Now, that's with anything that God has given you, whether it's your time, your abilities, your finances, whatever other resources, whatever, and even the spiritual gifts that he's given you, whatever you have, if you use it sparingly, you will get a little bit of a return. If you use it liberally, generously, you will get a bigger return. You've probably heard the saying, you get out of anything what you put into it. Same law, same principle. So I encourage you right now, Stay present, stay engaged, and keep investing yourself for yourself in this hour. And I'm going to do my very best to give you great value. So let's look at these 15, the portion of these 15 laws that, in my experience, kind of govern the preparation process. So the first of these is the law of intentionality, which simply says growth doesn't just happen. I mean, if you think about it, nothing just happens in life, right? But in the context of growth, you have to be intentional about it, and that means you have to have both the desire and the willingness to grow, and then you need a plan to go after it. It doesn't just happen. The next is the law of awareness, which John says you must know yourself to grow yourself. And so this really requires a process of inner discovery, ideally guided by the Holy Spirit, of, who has God made you to be? What is your unique identity? What is the purpose he has you here at this time? What dreams are hidden in your heart? What gifts and talents has he blessed you with? And what are your core values? What is most important to you right now? Understanding all of these things help you to prioritize and focus on the right places to grow. The third law is what's called the law of the mirror, which says see value in yourself to add value to yourself and ultimately to others. You can't give something to someone that you don't have. If you don't value yourself, you're not going to be able to impart value to anyone else or to teach them to value themselves. Very important. The fourth law in this group of preparation is curiosity. Growth is stimulated by asking why. And actually, there's a second part to that. Why not? You may know of George Bernard Shaw. He was a 20th century playwright and philosopher, and he said this. He said, some people see things as they are and ask why, while others dream things that never were and ask why not. And if you lived in the 1960s, you know that Bobby Kennedy, when he ran for president, adopted that as one of his campaign slogans. The Bible says we can speak about things that are not as though they are. In effect, we can declare them into existence because we train our minds to believe they're possible, which then motivates us to do what it takes. God says with him all things are possible, and our job is to act like we believe that. The final law in this preparation category is the law of design, which says to maximize growth, develop strategies. I said it earlier, have a plan. But here, strategy means knowing what you are going to do to grow, but also what you're not going to do. That's really important. The knowing clearly what you are and are not going to do keeps you from allowing good things that might be beneficial, from distracting you from the best things that that will cause you to grow in the right areas in the right way. So right now I want to take a pause and give you a closer look into that first law on this list, the law of intentionality. Again, it's growth doesn't just happen. You have to be intentional about it. And when we consider growth, what's the first thing you usually think of? Well, I need to set some goals for what I want to accomplish, or who I want to become, or where I want to go, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot to unpack about that, but everything, it starts with the purpose of goals in the growth process. So much like Jesus, I want to share an example from his creation that I think makes this point powerfully about growth doesn't just happen. Now I'm going to put up two images on the screen here. The one on the left is a vine. It's a grapevine. You look at the leaves and you can see the familiar shape of grape leaves. Now it looks like it's lush, it's green, it looks healthy. In many ways, it's a beautiful blanket growing up and around, whether it's a hillside or another plant. But it's pleasant to look at. Okay. Now here's the other image. This is also a grapevine, but you see the difference. It's bearing clusters of ripe, juicy grapes waiting to be harvested, and transformed in this case into some delicious wine. So, same plants, both living in favorable environments for growth, but two very different results. So here's the point. Fruitful growth is planned and it's cultivated. That's the difference between intentional growth and unintentional change, between making things happen and letting things happen. You need to have a plan to grow in the right areas, and you need to do the work of cultivation both in you and around you. And as the grape analogy here makes clear, that includes pruning the things that cause growth in the wrong areas. That vine on the left is quite lush and quite green, but it's not the right kind of growth to produce fruit. So the process isn't very complicated. Here's the key model for fruitful living. A few acts of self-discipline practiced daily over a period of time. Now, I don't know how you feel when you see the words self-discipline, but I think for a lot of us, the first reaction is a bit of a twinge. But really, it's just developing a routine. So, in the case of the grapevine, the few acts of self-discipline are this. The grower and his crew tend the vines every day, right? There's that daily practice. They inspect the branches every day. They cut off excess leaf growth. They even cut off young fruit so that what's left on the vine becomes more abundant. So they remove good fruit so that the best fruit can reach full maturity. That's the model we want for our life. Okay? Now, here's the opposite. Back to our untended grapevine. A fruitlessness model is a few errors in judgment practiced daily over a period of time. Again, this is the reality for most people. They don't have a plan. They believe the right growth will just happen naturally. This is probably the single biggest error that people make, but this one and others practice daily without conscious thought. People tend to confuse change, which is inevitable, with growth, which is intentional and planned, shaped and directed. I'm seeing on the chat, fruitfulness takes training. I want to be the best fruit. Must know your yes so you can say no to the distractors. Amen to all of that. Thank you guys for weighing in on that. So let's continue. Now, in this law, in the book, John Maxwell identifies a series of what he calls growth gaps. And you can see there's 8 of them. And I'm just going to take you through each one of those here. The first one is what's called the assumption gap, which simply says, I assume that I will automatically grow. Now, that's true of us when we're young with our bodies. Our bodies are going to grow, whether we, consciously intend them to grow or not. And so people tend to carry that through and say that, well, if my body grows that way, then my mental, emotional, and spiritual growth will work the same way. Does not. It does not work that way. The second gap is the knowledge gap, which simply says, I don't know how to grow. People love, you've heard this, people love to talk about the school of hard knocks or even the school of the Holy Spirit. But without a vision, a direction, and a plan to get there, your growth will most likely be random or haphazard and difficult. The next gap is what's called the timing gap. Well, I know I need to grow, but now isn't the time. I'm too saddled with other responsibilities, or, the environment in which I'm living isn't conducive. Now, as important as deciding is to grow, the only thing that matters is that real intention produces action. So if you delay your start, you say to yourself, I know I need to grow, I'm going to do it, just not yet. You subject yourself to another law. It's not part of the 15, but it's just as real. John Maxwell and others refer to it as the law of diminishing intent, which simply says the longer you wait to do something you know you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never do it. Don't think we want to be living there. The next gap is what's called the mistake gap, which simply says, I'm afraid to make mistakes. Nobody likes to feel foolish. Nobody likes to, look awkward when they try something new, but, it's really the price of admission. Something we all need to accept is the first time you do anything, you're not going to be very good at it. Unless you're a prodigy, unless you're Mozart, where you're 5 years old and you can sit down and play the piano like you've been playing it for 30 years. That's a rare gift, but that's not by and large the human condition. And the reality is you actually learn more by quote unquote failing, which simply means you didn't do it as well as you wanted to the first time than if you did. If you do something once and it works out just like you imagined it, guess what? You'll never know why. And most likely you won't be able to repeat it. So the next gap is what would be called the perfection gap, which simply says, I have to find the best way to grow before I start. Now, this is really a backward way of thinking. The truth is, you will only find the best way if you start. Others can show the way, provide examples, be mentors, but they can't impart their experience to you. You have to have your own. You have to experience your own growth. You will see it progressively as you go. Others can guide you. Wisdom will guide you, but it won't manifest in growth unless you walk it out. The next is the inspiration gap. Well, I just don't feel like doing it. We all have those days. I have those days. But here's the deal. If you wait for inspiration to show up, it'll never come. Motivation will not strike you like a bolt of lightning. It is an inside job. You stir it up by getting into action. Just start and keep going. As I and others like to say, you can't steer a parked car. Okay? Next gap is what's called the comparison gap. And that says, well, sure, I want to grow, but others are better than I am. So why bother? Well, this may be true, but the reality is it doesn't matter. The purpose of growth is to become the best you, not somebody else. God created unique potential in you. He shaped you, gifted you, equipped you like no other human being that's alive now or has ever lived or ever will live. But God has expectations for that. Jesus' parable of the talents made that quite clear. He expects whether you have many talents or few to bring him increase. As in all things, it's about faithfulness, not the amount. Now, last in this group of gaps is what's called the expectation gap. Now, this is one that everyone will encounter in some way at some point if you purpose yourself to grow. But it's this. Gosh, I thought it would be easier than this. So resolve in your heart right now. Everything worthwhile is uphill. It takes time. And guess what? That time will pass, whether you choose to grow or not, whether you pursue growth or not, whether you work to become better tomorrow than you are today or not, that time's still going to pass. So you can see how, I hope, how these growths may have operated in your life, may still be, or how you observe that in others perhaps that you lead or you are in relationship with. Now, of all of these, I think the one that's the most dangerous is this one, the comparison gap. Now, there is a very prominent leader in the kingdom. His name is Larry Randolph, and he has a great way of summarizing this. He said, even though we were born with an original self, the tragedy is that many, if not most of us, will live and die as a copy. So this one thing, this tendency to compare ourselves to others, is what more than anything else will keep us from being our unique, authentic, God-designed self. That's not the life God dreamt for you. Okay? God has a dream for your life. He shows us the way with his word. He provides what we need through his Son and by his Spirit, but we still have to walk it out. So those are the laws that govern preparation. Now I'm going to show you another group of laws that there's 6 of them in this group that I consider to be a part of process. The first is environment. Growth thrives in conducive surroundings. So being in the right environment to grow is a changing thing. It's not a static, because as we grow, as we reach new levels, the environment that was conducive to the previous growth may not be the right place for you to be going forward. So we need to be prepared to make changes. John likes to say this, others say this: if you're the smartest person in the room, find another room. As you grow, you need to now find places where you can be with people and in situations that challenge you to grow further. Okay, so that's really important. The next is the law of trade-offs. You have to give up to grow up. This is all about letting go of some of the things you value, love, that have served you well even in the past. But in terms of reaching your potential going forward, may actually be hindrances. So the question always becomes, are you willing to give up to grow up? Are you willing to give up the things that you treasure now for new things, better things that will help you get closer to your potential? Next in this group is the law of consistency. I love this one. Motivation gets you going, but it's discipline that keeps you growing. This ties back to that example I showed with the two grapevines. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter how many opportunities come your way. If you want to grow, the key is consistent effort. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 in a short period of time, but you need to think of it as an ongoing journey. I want to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to whatever. Now, we all love exponential growth, and many times that can happen. But the key is every day, every day. Next is the law of pain. And John puts it this way: good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. And what he really shows us here is that, and I love the way he puts this, problems introduce us to more of ourselves. Okay, and the Bible's full of examples like this that talks about, count it all joy when you face trials, because it builds your character, right? It creates endurance. It creates so many good things. And so pain, as it were, the struggle, how you come through those experiences, if you do it well, will lead to great growth. It prompts us to face who we are and where we are and what we do with the experiences we have, how those will define who we become. Next is the law of the rubber band, and this one simply says growth stops when you lose the tension between where you are and where you want to be. There's another pastor that I follow who I like. His name is Mark Batterson. He has a rather large church in the Washington, D.C. area, and he says it this way: potential is God's gift to you. Our gift back to him is to develop it. And John Maxwell echoes that as well. There's far too many people who are content with just being average. If where you are and where you want to be are the same, if you feel like you've arrived and you're satisfied and you're good enough, growth will stop. And you'll stay there until there's a difference between where you are and where you want to be. So that's very important. Next is the law of modeling. And that says it's hard to improve when you have no one to follow. It's hard to improve when you try to do it on your own. I love how the Bible puts it. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Finding mentors and leaders and teachers who've walked the path and can impart wisdom because they've walked it, it's critical. Now, they can't impart the actual growth, but they certainly can show you the way, and that matters greatly. In the church, we call that discipleship, okay? So of this group, I'm going to give you a little closer look in what I think is the one that stands out the most here, and that's that law of consistency. Motivation gets you going, discipline keeps you growing. Here's another way of thinking about it. You will never improve your life until you improve something you do in your life. We all love inspiration. We all like that spark. But motivation and discipline really are inside jobs. There's a difference between inspiration and motivation. You hear football coaches and other coaches, they say, that guy's a motivator. No, he can inspire people, but the motivation has to come from within. It comes from choosing to be motivated, choosing to be disciplined, choosing to do the work, choosing to suffer discomfort, choosing to pay the price. If you want your life to change and you want your life to be better, you have to improve something you do. So how do you grow in consistency? Well, in the book, John outlines 4 questions. Consistent at what? The first one is, do you know what you need to improve? Think of the grapevine image again, okay? Do you know where you need to take that out of control grape plant and prune it back so that it looks more like the one that has been cared for? The next is, do you know how you're supposed to improve? Again, going back to the grapevine, where do I make the cuts? How do I leave what has the potential to bear fruit, and how do I remove what will not bear fruit? Do you know why you want to keep improving? This goes back to the motivation. What's the ultimate aim for you? And the fourth question is, do you know when you're supposed to improve? Now, this one has a self-evident answer. It's right now. It's every second, every day. Nothing more, nothing less. So those of you here online, just put in the chat, which of these 4 areas of consistently have been hard for you? Where do you see right now in yourself the need to maybe come up to be better at being consistent? Where have you experienced progress and then a stop? Just kind of put that in the chat while we move forward, and then when things come in, I'll share some of that with those of us here who are attending live. So here's the last group of the 15 laws that in my experience, I think govern the results that the growth produces. The fruit of your preparation and the fruit of working through the process. Now, here at this point, it's good to remember what Jesus taught us. If we remain in him and allow his words to remain in us, we will bear much fruit. The fruit God designed us to bear. So if you think about what we just looked at, those first 2 groups of laws, it's about preparation, it's about process, and Jesus is our ultimate example and plumb line and guide for life. And so if we do what he says, we'll grow. Allowing his words to remain in us means, I believe you, Jesus, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to trust you that it's the right thing to do. So here are the 4 laws that I think reveal how well you're doing that. The first is what John calls the law of the ladder. Character determines the level of your growth. So many ways to unpack this, so many ways to internalize this, but I think in the main, what you do ultimately springs from who you are. There's kind of an order to this, be, do, and have, or be, do, and reap. So the more your character is aligned with Jesus, the more fruitful you'll be. He promises that. Next is the law of reflection. This is really important. Pausing allows growth to catch up with you. When you take action, and then you follow that action with some time to quietly reflect on what you've done, more effective action can follow. And conversely, when you follow ineffective action with quiet reflection, you still discover where you need to grow. So whether it's working or whether you're struggling, it's the pause to reflect is key to keep your forward momentum. Next in this group is the law of expansion, which says growth always increases your capacity. The way God has gifted you, equipped you, it's not just for you. It really is for others, which leads into the last of the 15 laws that I'm going to share with you. But, when it comes to personal growth, there's no finish line. And growth always will increase your capacity to be more of who God made you to be. The last law that I alluded to, the law of contribution. Growing yourself enables you to grow others. You're here at this time because God has a purpose for you. And if you have received Jesus as your Savior, you now know that your life is not your own. And all the things that God gives to you because he made you new in Jesus, those aren't for you. Those are for others. So by growing yourself, you are become more enabled to grow others. So every gift and talent we get is to bless others. And then when we operate there, we are blessed. That's why Jesus said it's more blessed to give than receive. And why he said give and it'll be given to you. So let's take one more closer look. I want to go back to the law of reflection. Learning to pause allows growth to catch up with you. You've heard the expression, experience is the best teacher. It's common in our culture and many others. But do you know where it came from? Well, the first person in recorded history to say that was actually Julius Caesar, the Roman emperor. He wrote a piece called Commentaries on the Civil War, which was reflections as the emperor of the wars that were going on in the Roman Republic when he was ruling it. And he said, experience is the teacher of all things. Sounds right, really does. But like a lot of other truisms we hear, it's not really true. Now, a leader I worked for early in my business career, he used to say this a lot. He said, see that person over there, so-and-so, he has 1 year of experience 25 times. And he would say that about people that at least in his assessment, evidenced by the way they did their jobs, that while they've been at it a long time, they really didn't learn anything from their experience of how to do it better. So the reality is experience is not the best teacher. Evaluated experience is the best teacher. It's only by pausing to reflect and evaluate on what we've done, on what we've experienced, that the lessons that we need to learn become clear. So reflection then turns our experience into insight, into know-how, into a way forward to know what to change the next time to be better at whatever it is you're doing, or just be better in your character, in your being. Everybody needs this. Everybody needs this. So there's a couple of levels of reflection that John shares in the book that I want to highlight for you here quickly. One is a simple one, and one is a little bit more involved. The simple one is a daily reflection. I don't know about you, but I tend to do this sort of informally. As the day winds down, I kind of think about, what went well, what didn't go well, why. So, here are the simple questions. As I just said, first one is, what happened today that went well? Next one is, well, what didn't go well? And the third is, what did I learn from both of those things that I can apply to my day tomorrow? This is something simple. You can do this in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You can do it in your head. You can sit down and write it in a journal. Writing it down is better because you then have a tracking of how you've done your daily reflections. I will confess that I need to get better at that part. But if you can develop that habit, it will serve you well, serve you extremely well. Now, here's a little bit more involved, and this one is really intended to be sort of the quarterly pause or even the annual pause. And John calls it using your eyes. And he calls it that because the 4 things he encourages you to do all start with the letter I. And the first one is this: investigate. That is about asking questions, seeking feedback from others, going to the Lord and saying, show me what I need to see. So it's being inquisitive, just looking at what has happened. Then, if you're going to go through this more involved process of reflection, the next step is what John says is incubate. Let it sit for a while. Put it in the slow cooker of your mind, as I like to say. And along the way, let it marinate, meditate with the Lord on it if that's part of your daily habit. And just let the insights begin to bubble up, which leads to the third I here, which is illuminate. Out of that incubation, it'll be more likely for you to see the aha moments, the things that, oh, that's why that didn't go well, and that's why that one did go well, and here's what I can learn from both of those things. And then the last I that John uses is called illustrate, and that is connecting what you've learned from the first 3 steps to specific moments for yourself to understand, but also for you to tell the stories of your own journey so that you can help others to understand. All of us are in a position where if we're in relationship with people, we have some amount of influence with them. So the more that we can demonstrate with our own life this process of growth, and more particularly how we apply this and live this law of reflection, the more of a blessing that we can be to others. Now, the labels of these things aren't as important as the principles behind them, okay? So look for why things went the way they did. Let what you find in that process sit a while you process it, however you process. Seek understanding and then connect it to specific moments so you have stories to tell. So, once again, throw in the chat, which of these things, this particular kind of reflection that you've engaged in the past, which one of these you think you need to pay more attention to you. For me, I would say the illuminate one is one where I could be doing more. I'm always a person that asks a lot of questions about why things go the way they do. But I can honestly say I could be better at the third part, and then subsequently would be better at the fourth. Be curious about your own process. I love that someone brought up the scripture reference: observe the ant, look and see, learn from life experience. Amen. Evaluation is so necessary. Okay. So these are the 15 laws of growth that John has discerned and discovered over his highly fruitful life as both a leader and an equipper. And my affiliation, my personal affiliation with the John Maxwell team releases me to bring you an opportunity to participate in a highly valuable learning experience where, together with a small group of like-minded and like-motivated people, we can learn and grow in living these 15 laws together. And it's this. It's the 15 Laws of Growth Mastermind Group. Thursdays, starting 2 weeks from today, January 27th through February 24th. 90-minute sessions, 12 to 1:30 on Zoom. Same medium we're talking about right now. So here are some of the ways you will benefit. First and foremost, this is a world-class resource for personal growth. There are many out there, but I believe John, in totality, has got the best, most useful resources, and that's why I chose to align myself with him as a certified coach and trainer. The process of collaborating in the journey with people who have like-mindedness and like objective is powerful. It's powerful. It's unlike any other learning format you will experience. And my role in that, as you will see, is to be the facilitator, but also to be a fellow traveler. Each time I go through this with a group, I learn more. It's so rich, it's so deep, and it's one of the favorite things that we offer here at Awaken to Life. Mutual encouragement and strengthening. When a group of us come together, we kind of take our masks off, we allow ourselves to be real with one another and just share what we all know we're going through. There's encouragement that comes through that. There's a strengthening that comes through that. It's also a judgment-free space. We do not evaluate. We do not, correct. We simply share the insights that we're all gaining from studying these laws, relating them to our life, and taking that and saying, what do we need to do to go forward? Now, because this format is so special, it really needs to be a limited number of people. So what we have chosen to do is limit it to a total of 8, which means 7 participants, plus myself as a facilitator and co-participant. So I don't want you to just take my word for it. I'm going to share a couple of testimonials from some previous groups so you can get a sense of how they felt about what they went through. Here's one from Shirley. She said, I thoroughly enjoyed the mix of participants in the group. They clearly invested themselves in the material, and they were very transparent in sharing their struggles in applying John Maxwell's laws and principles. The mastermind group format is outstanding. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I will say, if I were to write a testimonial, I would say the same thing. Here's another one from another participant named Neil. Dennis does an excellent job of leading this mastermind because he is on this journey to grow personally in these laws. He's very good at drawing the participants into personal awareness by his own transparent examples, and he facilitates in a manner that is more coaching than teaching. And this one, when I saw it, really encouraged me because that is the aim. I'm not here in this mastermind group format to teach you. I'm here to guide the process that I've been trained to provide and to be a fellow learner along with you. And it's super powerful. And here's another one that drives home an important point about personal growth and about, what we call self-help resources. This is from a woman named Cheryl. She said, if I read the 15 Laws book only on my own, I would not have had the benefit of others' experiences, which only enhanced my own and brought more awareness. You can see how, if you consider these 3 testimonials as a whole, how their experience illustrated the very journey, how their experience illustrated the truth and the applicability and the value of these 15 laws. So now, because you have taken the time to attend this session, either live or through the recording, I have a special offer I want to make to you. And here it is. I have a package of benefits that I'd like to give you, starting with the basic group. As I said earlier, it's 5 live 90-minute sessions by Zoom. And if you looked on our website today, you would see that the regular price for that is $129. Now, here's what else we're offering. The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth Mastermind Group Participant Guide. This is only something that's available through a certified coach like myself. And you can't buy this on Amazon. You can't go to a bookstore to buy this. It's only available through a program like this. Now, if you were to go buy it, based on some of the other resources John has, that would have a value of about $29. Now, if you join our program, you would get this as a download. You sign up and you'll receive a confirmation email. This would be an electronic document, which you can choose to print out and take notes on. Or if you're a little more adept with a computer, you could actually type your notes on the document if you so choose. That takes a little bit more effort, so I recommend printing it out. You don't have to print it all at once. You can print it only for the sections that we're going to do each time we gather. Also, the price of the mastermind does not include acquiring the actual book. That's an additional cost. I encourage people to get the paperback version because you can mark it up, you can make notes. Some people like to use the ebook version. That's available. But that book has a retail value of $19. And there's a fourth resource, and it's something that I created from my own journey that I simply call 10 Secrets of Personal Growth. And I wrote this with the intent of having kind of a companion resource to John's book, but also as a demonstration of at the point that I wrote this, how I've progressed through my own journey of personal growth. So in this resource, you'll see a lot of my personal journey reflected in it. But there are 10 areas, 10 secrets of growth that are included in that. And if that was a standalone resource, it would be a $14 value. And again, if you choose to sign up for the group, this would be sent to you as a digital download. So, lots of value here, lots of tools. I hope you can see that this will equip you well. So if you added up the total value of all of these things, it would come to $191. But because you've taken the time with me today, I'm offering this whole package to you for a special webinar price of $119. Okay? The way you get that is to go onto our website. This is the link. It's awaken2.life/15laws-mmgreg. You can also get to that page by simply going to our website, clicking on the tab that says Growth, and then selecting the menu that says Mastermind Groups. And it'll take you to the page where you will see this group and another group that we will be doing later in the year, and you simply click on the Register Now button, and it'll take you to this page where you can sign up. Now, to get this offer with all the additional resources, you need to use this discount code. It's 15MMG22. Now, the MMG is in all capital letters. That's really important. It's a case-sensitive discount code. So it's 15MMG22. Now, this offer we're only making available through the 17th of this month. Okay? So by the end of the day on July 17th, which is a Monday, or January 17th, excuse me, you can sign up for this webinar or this mastermind group and get this offer. But it's only good through the 17th, and you need to make sure you use that discount code. Now, because you've watched this, I'm going to send you, once we're completed in just a couple of minutes here, a follow-up email that'll have all this information in it. Okay, so and it will give you a live link to get directly to the sign-up page. So I've appreciated your willingness to take a positive step to grow, to spend this hour of your lunchtime with me. I hope this was a nourishing dose of wisdom for you. And I encourage you really to take advantage of this offer. And I hope to see all of you watching this either live or via the recording in my mastermind group 2 weeks from today. So with that, I want to thank you again. And I encourage you to, when you go to our website, to take a look around and see all the other things that Awaken to Life has to offer, both in our Awaken to Growth Partners team, as well as the other resources I mentioned earlier that help you to receive healing, reclaim health, and pursue growth. And with that, I thank you. I say good afternoon, and may God bless you.